Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and yeah, new year, new season of Billboard BREAKDOwn.
I don't remember.
So, what did I miss? Yeah, it turns out that when I weighed an overseas honeymoon trip with my now wife against writing about multiple album bombs split apart by a weirdly messy and busy week, that was a pretty easy decision to make. But now I've come back at the turn of the tide on a week that would seem on the surface to be relatively routine, except start of a new Billboard year, and Billboard instituted a new recurrency rule. It's easily one of the most consequential I have seen this year, or in a while, brought in on the new day of the Billboard year. Yes, I know, it's asinine. We'll get to it with the year-end list. And it's already had a notable impact, although the devil's in the details with this, especially when you read between the lines in the press release, which seems tailor-made to annoy me. We're gonna get into it. But before we get to all of that, we need to take a look at our top 10, and oh my god, who the hell left all this Taylor Swift here? I thought everyone told me that The Life of a Showgirl was flopping and could only maintain traction with album sales and gimmicks, and that nothing would last until the second week. Now, I'm obviously being sarcastic here. This was the same case for the Tortured Poets department, and when the Hot 100 is otherwise so weak, it's not surprising that Taylor Swift can dominate on streaming effectively alone. Although for our number one, The Fate of Ophelia, a decent but barely better song that barely seems to grasp its central metaphor, it's now holding the top spot with sales, with a lot of YouTube, and simply massive airplay boost to boot. It might not be omnipresent forever if the streaming keeps dropping off, but it's a bona fide hit right now, and Opalite looks to be right behind it with a proper airplay push of its own alongside the YouTube. Also a pretty decent song that might be a little bit simpler, but the whole stuttered syllables on the hook just kind of annoy me. But they do actually have some competition here. Surging back to number 3, we got Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters with a huge streaming revival and sales that are going nowhere and radio that's remarkably robust. And on a similar note, Ordinary by Alex Warren also climbed back to number 4 on ironclad radio dominance and pretty consistent streaming and sales to boot. I might be sick of the song by now and wish that other Alex Warren tracks were doing better, but folks apparently aren't dropping it yet. And for the rest of our top 10, look, it's all Taylor Swift, folks, and I already spent nearly half an hour discussing the album at length. I really don't feel like repeating myself on my first episode back of the Billboard year, especially when we might as well just look at streaming position to determine where songs fell out. So with that in mind, Elizabeth Taylor at number 5, Father Figure at number 6, Wishlist at number 7, Wood at number 8, The Life of a Showgirl with Sabrina Carpenter at number 9, and Actually Romantic at number 10. Genuinely curious if Charlie XCX responds and where that song might chart. It'd be very indicative of Brat Summer's Runaway. But okay, now we're getting to the meat of this. Our losers and dropouts. The big story here is that Billboard, in a desire to see more chart turnover in a year that was otherwise pretty goddamn stagnant, they brought in new recurrency rules. Now, for those of you who are new, when a song is sent recurrent, it is no longer eligible to chart on the Hot 100. It had its fair run. They want to open up the charts to other songs to actually break through. Now, truthfully, I've got somewhat mixed opinions on recurrency, especially in an aggregated chart where its somewhat dated concept was built more for radio, building their retrospective playlist. In a streaming economy, especially with TikTok, when anything or everything can go viral, feels a shade bit archaic. But in tracking charts that don't have recurrency, like the Global 200, you would be shocked how many old songs that are decades old just refuse to go anywhere. It can present the view of a stagnant listening public or a music industry, which is more true than anyone wants to admit, but it's no good for Billboard. They get their best traffic when the charts are actually moving, independent of radio inertia or streaming playlists taking their sweet goddamn time. Now, the previous rules were that if a song was over 20 weeks on the Hot 100 and fell below the top 50, or over 52 weeks and fell below the top 25, they were gone. And the key word to keep in mind here is that they were descending. Apparently, Billboard justified all their previous times ignoring their own recurrency rules, basically when they felt like it, because the songs had some sort of momentum, of which I have opinions. We'll get into it. But for now, the rules are as follows. Same for the top 50, but now if the song falls in the top 25 within 26 weeks, or below the top 10 within 52 weeks, or below the top 5 within 78 weeks, they're gone. And you know, while it's very funny to say, this was just implemented in order to get rid of Lose Control by Teddy Swims, which it did alongside a bunch of other old songs like Die With A Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars, Beautiful Things, and Sorry I'm Here For Someone Else by Benson Boone, I'm the Problem and Just In Case by Morgan Wallen, Good News by Shabuzi, Undressed by Somber, Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA, All The Way by Big X The Plug and Bailey Zimmerman. I can't help but feel that if Billboard just reinforced their own existing recurrency rules more strictly, at least some of the situation could have been mitigated months ago, give some other songs more of a chance to shine. Especially when in the footnotes of the article announcing this, they didn't fully fix the problem. Holiday music, for example, completely exempted from all these rules, along with songs growing below that range on a case-by-case basis, so Billboard effectively gave themselves an out for mishaps by saying, oh, the song is growing, we gave it a pass, don't dig too deeply into the data. If you want to avoid the conflicts of interest or even the appearance thereof, I wouldn't have done that. But they also did get rid of a few other songs like Marlboro Rojo by Fuerza Regida and Voy a Levarte by Puerto Rico by Bad Bunny. I guess we'll see how well this system's going to wind up working. Because our losers were just Cardi B album cuts. Outside at 86, just never got going properly the way they hoped. Pretty and Petty at 94, Magnet at 100. You get what you get. But when you do cut away so many older songs, you're going to get a lot of gains and returns. And you know what? To be fair, given that I was away for 3 weeks, if I find a song that I was previously unfamiliar with and didn't cover, I'll add a couple words, if not a full review, especially as they may have gotten a new lease on life to have some actual chart stability with the new rules. Shame that the majority of our returns just suck. I'll stick up for Shake It to the Max by Molly, Silent Addy, Skillabang, and Shensia at 99. Probably also for Amen by Shabuzi and Jelly Roll at 88, which looks to be a test case for bending those recurrency rules, because even if it saw some radio ads, it's well past 20 weeks. But I'm not as forgiving for Gnarly by Cat's Eye at 98, She Ready by Key Glock at 97, Holy Water by Marshmello and Jelly Roll at 79, or especially What an Awesome God by Phil Wickham at 96. Yeah, that's what the Hot 100 in 2025 needed. Flips of classic hymnals with mega church bombast and the most gutless trap percussion I've heard in recent memory. By all that is holy, get this shit gone. Now with our gains, well, outside of the top 10 movement, we saw a lot of new-ish songs in the midsection of the charts get a boost, including Wildflower by Billie Eilish at 50, where I'm sorry, there's no goddamn excuse for this. It's been on the Hot 100 over a year. Just because it picked up positions on the Hot 100 doesn't work when it should have been recurrent under nearly all the new rules, especially when any gains in performance can barely be observed in the data. If you spend months planning these rules, what's your threshold for counting gains that are big enough? Whatever, let's hope it's a 1 week exemption, and well, I guess country's a good place to start. Given that it normally hovers around the stable midsection of the Hot 100 anyway, it's ripe to take advantage of the gap. Back in the Saddle by Luke Combs up to 34. 6 months Later by Mega Maroney at 46. House Again by Hudson Westbrook at 47. Somewhere Over Laredo by Lainey Wilson at 51. Last One to Know by Gavin Adcock at 54. Don't Mind If I Do by Riley Green and Ella Langley at 58. Better Me For You, Brown Eyes by Max McNown at 61. Darlin' by Chase Matthew at 64. I talked about this guy last year. He sucked then, and wow, Jealous and Pissy Trap Country that sounds like something Sam Hunt would have rejected in 2020. That's something glad that I missed. This guy is bad. And also What Kind of Man by Parker McCollum at 84, and The Fall by Cody Johnson at 78. Really nice melancholic reflection on a hard life and just trying to ride through it. It's got a very early 2010s touch to the darker strings and the guitar arrangement. I really like how the hook progresses with the word on the end leading to the next line. Maybe needed a bridge to properly go over the top, but otherwise it is quite strong. Happy to see it here. Let's get to the hip-hop next. Sugar on My Tongue by Tyler the Creator at 42. Shot Callin' by Youngboy Never Broke Again at 44. My God, we did not need to bring him back, especially as there's also What You Is with Mellow Racks at 76 that sounds just as cheaply produced. Especially after a shockingly well-executed transition, the bass sounds awful, and it's also sloppily paranoid as you would expect, but somehow manages enough wild energy and Mellow Racks having an infectiously sharp verse to be redeemable. I mean, she's certainly more likable than her ex, Kodak Black. Then we got WGFT by Gunna and Burna Boy at 62. Went Legit with G Herbo at 73, and Take Me Through There by Metro Boomin, Quavo, Bresky, and YK Nice at 75. Can't say I'm a fan of that one. The rinky-dink keys behind the rattling snap gets really grating behind the repetitive hook, and Quavo and YK Nice basically add nothing. For a twerk song, I can't say it satisfies. Now for R&B, I guess No Broke Boys with Disco Lines and Tinashe kinda counts at 39. Similar tenuous territory for Jealous Type by Doja Cat at 45. But we did get Is It a Crime from Mariah the Scientist and Kali Uchis at 55. And So Easy to Fall in Love by Olivia Dean at 54. Really need to cover that album from her at some point. This sort of impeccably produced and playfully sensual bossa nova touch pop R&B really hits a sweet spot for me. I like this a lot. Now for the rest, let's go bottom up. Camera by Ed Sheeran at 80. Sparks by Coldplay is still here at 74. Nice to Meet You by Miles Smith at 65. Strategy by Twice at 63. Dracula by Tame Impala at 59. I mean, it's got a somewhat compelling Halloween-friendly arrangement, but the bubbling yet lockstep percussion hits a weird note, the lyrics are ridiculous, and Kevin Parker can't remotely sell this. Really dire sign that Tame Impala is finally charting with this Drek and the worst album of their careers. Then The Dead Dance by Lady Gaga at 57, 12 to 12 by Somber at 43. Somebody get this guy some handlers who won't have him squander his own career barely before it started. And Gabriella by Cat's Eye at 41. Hate to say it, but 3 weeks away from the Hot 100 has not exactly made it better. That's an indictment if there was one. But okay, now on to a pretty sparse list of new arrivals. Let's get it started with number 93, Days Like These by Luke Combs.
You got me. We got everything we need. And even if it grew on trees, well, money came by days like these.
So I did not expect that Back in the Saddle would perform as strongly as it has. It's about as basic of a Luke Combs song as you could get, especially after what he put out last year that never received the push it deserved. But now we got the second single upcoming for that new album, if you could call it a single, really. It's got the feel of a rather abbreviated, understated promo cut to maybe reassure some folks that he didn't totally abandon the neo-traditional side. It's a very understated and acoustic ballad of appreciating all the little things and the good days. It's a very warm, very contented song, so much so that it barely does anything beyond that in order to paint some of the details, feeling very basic, almost cliche in the composition and songwriting. And while it's passable, I also say it wouldn't be that memorable. It's a nice bit of reassurance, but I can't say more than that. Number 90, Pixelated Kisses by Joji.
Replicate this moment from a million miles away. Waiting for the second, baby, never make a sound. If you never hear from me, all the satellites are down. Yeah, they're all down.
I think it says a lot that with limited notice and dropping the song midweek, Joji could land a comeback single. It's been 3 years since Smithereens, and while I didn't really care for that project, it was also so insubstantial that the Joji songs I really like have lasted, long overpowering its memory. And with this, I can't be the only one underwhelmed, right? This blown out and saturated grainy rage knock with a muted percussion and a bit of a faint flute on the outro, where Joji's crooning would be the best thing about this if it wasn't about him getting horny about some online hookup. And it barely even runs for 2 minutes. Even if it is self-produced, it feels like there should be a lot more here than this, especially given all the grandeur of Slow Dancing in the Dark or Sanctuary. To come back, No, not impressed. And it has me worried that the fragmented style and abbreviated song structures of Smithereens might be replicated going forward. God, I hope not. Number 72, Eyes Closed by JISOO and ZAYN.
Let's let it go. Better if we fall in love with our eyes closed.
I can't help but feel like this was a matter of time. Lisa, Jenny, and Rose got their crossover singles, and that left one Blackpink member to cross over. Although initially, I didn't quite think she was interested. JISOO actually made a solo push around 2023 that didn't really cross over stateside, and teaming up with former One Direction member ZAYN, who's been long away from any of the charts, well, that's not exactly the way to get back. But hey, it did chart regardless, and the song, man, I don't know what I was hoping for, but this reminds me of the utterly forgettable pop R&B dreck a half step removed from trap that trickled out at the very end of the 2010s, where even if there was a little bit more muscle to the underlying groove, the watery mix, the awkward warbling flutters, the ramshackle percussion, and all the blown out clipping across the vocal mixes, hi, the monsters and strangers really did not miss your production, has it feeling so hopelessly dated. It doesn't help matters that I don't get a lot of chemistry between the leads here. ZAYN doesn't do a lot to work well to blend with JISOO, who was never the most charismatic out of Blackpink as it is, and nothing about the mix really draws to mind any sensuality that they're trying to evoke in the lyrics, where they're hoping for a certain ignorance to fall in love away from their respective past. Not a bad premise, and it kind of works for a song about lovers from very different places that they want to keep apart, but it just doesn't have a lot of flavor. It needs to feel as distinct as it should be. Not a bad hook or harmonies, but it feels like the definition of something that's not going to stick for long either. Just okay, at best. Number 71, Maui Wowie by Kid Cudi.
That Maui Wowie, going back to Honolulu just to get that Maui Wowie, that Maui Wowie.
So did any of you know that Kid Cudi dropped an album this year? Likely not going to review it. I got messy thoughts on Kid Cudi as a whole. At some point I need to revisit his discography for the proper deep dive, but I did hear the album, and it was a pretty intriguing blend of the alternative influences he's been cultivating with his crooning, and a little bit more muscle and driving hooks than you would expect. It's a good genre fusion. It's certainly worth the listen. So naturally, instead of anything from that project getting traction, we get a song from his debut mixtape from the late 2000s, produced by Kanye West, flipping Grind Mode and John Legend, and went viral on TikTok thanks to people having this while they're dangling from various architecture. Because, you know, they're getting high. And look, I think a lot of weed songs can be pretty flimsy, so when you pair it with the chalky percussion, the weedy keys, the utterly dated and underpowered mixtape production, down to the song ending with a literal fart, none of it feels emblematic of what made Kid Cudi so special for so many years to come. It's basically a weed movie piss take. If I'm Kid Cudi, look, I wouldn't turn down the surge in streaming, but I think he'd wish he had got the new album more attention rather than something from his debut mixtape a decade plus ago. Because this is a high, it's gonna come down fast. Number 68, Leavin by Rod Wave.
Walking through the rain, it's a real dirty game. Snakes look like friends. Solid shit might been for a blue Benjamin. Lost my right hand, that shit killing me the most. How I stay afloat with a hole in my boat. Niggas throwing low blows when you're back against the rope. Nigga try and play your clothes just so they can cut your throat.
Look, at this point, I really wish I could be more enthusiastic about a new Rod Wave song. He certainly has his formula. I was hoping for years he'd be able to evolve it more, but I think he gave up on that 2 albums ago. So with this, yeah, sure is a Rod Wave song, alright. No tangible chorus, pitched up sample, weedy guitar and keys that feels crushed back by the clumsily mastered bass, and Rod Wave going through the stock mistrustful angst about being lonely at the top, those around him dying or betraying him, and now he's looking to venture out of the spotlight yet again. Don't wait up. And yeah, truthfully, I'm not waiting up. The formula's felt tired for a while now, and when the producers aren't really improving to help accentuate him, I'm just not nearly as interested. And when the song's not particularly memorable either in content or chord progression, yeah, the more he talks about leaving, the more I'm wondering how many are gonna miss him when he's gone. It's not a good sign. And finally, number 66, Part of Me by A Boogie with the Hoodie.
It's been a while, know my savage, this is Thursday. Somebody around me, catch a body, girl, I'm heading to. Ooh, somebody try to touch my chain and we gon' murk on. About 25 inside the Glocky, let it burn. Like Michael Jackson, you just rock with me like Kawasaki, come to ride like a bike and you come through.
Okay, of all the people to come back and chart this high, A Boogie with the Hoodie sure as hell was not one of them for me, especially as I don't think anyone really cared about that 2024 album. His hype has long cooled down, mostly due to a terminal lack of anything to say and his style getting played out in record time. Granted, I'm not sure how much of this is charting based off of him or the interpolation of We Belong Together by Mariah Carey, a song I've never loved as much as the diehard fans, but wow, I'd rather take her than A Boogie's muted auto-tuned warble against the reverb-saturated mix and creaky backing vocals and spare keys around the stock trap percussion where he doesn't even sound interested. And it becomes frustrating because the melodic core is easily the most distinctive part of the song, outside of the brand name porn and trying to get a girl to come through where she sounds like she'd rather be anywhere else, especially when he's still trying and mostly failing to be hard, emphasizing how he got rid of all of her stuff and he's got new hoes waiting. Mariah Carey herself has a new album out this year. She feels more acutely relevant than A Boogie right now. Anyway, this is a comeback we did not need. I don't even think we wanted it. Hopefully it does not stick around. And yeah, that's our week. Man, a whole lot of mediocrity here. Not promising for this next Billboard year unless something flips around. But the worst is easily going to Maui Wowie by Kid Cudi. I just feel embarrassed for the guy. What a stupid name and a stupid song. And the best, I guess, Days Like These by Luke Combs. It's far from his best, but it's also competent, basically likable. I'll run with that. Let's see what the rest of this calendar year, Billboard year 2026, and this new season of Billboard Breakdown will bring. Until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.